Howdy do, I'm Ghoulie Joe, and this is my review of Season of the Witch. Now, you may have noticed if you watched my last video that I had the microphone all up in my face. And so this time the sound guard is off, but that means that you're going to hear a bunch of little ambient sounds like the noise my mouth is making as I talk and swallow. So, Season of the Witch, not to be confused with Halloween 3, 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Or the Nicolas Cage movie, the same name. This is a movie from 1972, written and directed by Romero. I'm very pretentious, you see. And so it concerns Joan, a bored suburban housewife who gets her kicks joining a coven of witches. And with unexpected results. Romero himself called it a feminist movie, and yeah, I would agree with that. She's just trampled on by the men in her life. And, I mean, to an extent, it's feminist. We'll get to that later. Joan is very repressed. Her hair is always in this tight little bun that looks really painful. And she feels malaise, and she's just lifeless. And all the men in her life are trying to control her. Her husband is, when he's not abusive, like slapping her, he's just neglectful. He's gone. He's totally oblivious to her. She has a dream sequence where she's walking in the park with him, and she's way behind him, and he's just going along, a newspaper in his face, and he's pushing tree branches out of his way, and they're coming back and smacking her in the face, and she's bleeding, and he's just like, la la la, reading my newspaper. And she has a dream where he puts her on a leash and boards her in a kennel. And so the dreams, I normally hate dream sequences in movies, but here they're very clever. They give a lot of expositional information, very primal, like we feel for her. And Greg, her lover, he's very condescending, and he makes her thank him for coming to get busy with her. And her therapist is also very condescending and let me interpret these dreams for you because you have no idea what you're doing when you're thinking about your dreams. And so Joan is just stuck. And Shirley, her friend, who's a little bit older than her, she has a different set of problems. She's getting to be older, and she feels like she's past her prime. And one scene, she's drunk and hysterical and just saying, I'm not done. Like, she feels marginalized for being an older woman. She feels like she isn't seen as having anything to contribute anymore. And so both of them are kind of just lolling around in their misery. It's funny because Shirley actually would have made a pretty good witch if their depiction of witchcraft is pretty authentic for the most part. And as far as witchcraft goes, women are valued, even older women, especially older women actually, because they're seen as wise and learned. There's a common symbol used in witchcraft of the full moon flanked by the waxing moon and the waning moon. And the waxing moon represents the young woman, the maiden, and the full moon is the mother, and then the waxing moon is the crone. And the crone is totally looked up to as something important to be. So Shirley would have made a really good witch. It's too bad for her. But Joan comes into some power. She finds a way to control her life in unexpected ways. I don't want to spoil. I don't have a lot of gripes. Mostly that it's hard to follow. I mean, like I said, I like the dreams, but when it's happening like every 10 minutes, it's like, is this a dream? Is it not a dream? What's happening? So it was a bit confusing and difficult at times just to know what was going on. And then really my biggest gripe is, it's kind of unfair to gripe about it, I guess, because it was the 70s and they were doing the best they could. But it really highlights the differences that there have always been between black feminism and white feminism. Even back with the suffragists, And the white suffragists were like, we want to work, we want a job. And the black feminists were like, we have jobs, we want basic human rights. And so, looking at the feminism in this movie, we're looking at this rich white woman and her problems when it's kind of... I mean, it wasn't an important movie for its time, but at the same time, it really underscores the difference between black feminism and white feminism and class differences. But yeah, overall, it's a good watch. You should give it a go. It's interesting, and the ending is pretty great. So I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna leave you with a piece of advice. If you're watching a horror movie and there's a woman named Lilith, she is a demon every time. And that is that. Thanks for your kind attention. I loves ya.